Yo, on the Raider Nation, it's your boy Dub Raider, Chris from Protect the Shield, right here next to me. Welcome to another episode of the Raider Nation Weekly Wire. Chris, how you doing, my brother?
Good, man. I'm good. It's been a trying week, that's for sure, man. And so, but it's it's going. Time doesn't stop for nobody, man. So you got to keep it going and keep it moving. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Fortunately and unfortunately, it's my wife and my kids' spring break right now.
Yeah.
So that means spring cleaning for me. I got a lot more work to do other than what I normally do, but it's okay. Things got to get done. It's part of being a happy family, happy wife, happy life.
Oh yeah.
So just getting things done, but making time for you and for the Raider Nation is always definitely a priority as well, man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So Nation, this week we're gonna do our two segments like we do always, which is Chris's weekly word. We have some important topics, more important than normal, and obviously rumor mill, mostly because we really don't have much going on out there right now, being that we're a week away from the draft. And then we're gonna do football 101. Last week we covered the offense. This week we're gonna do defense. So we're going to talk about the positions and what they do, all the importance of them. So that would be football 101. Okay, so Chris, if you're ready, I'm ready, my brother.
For sure.
Let's do this. So Raider Nation, we're starting with Chris's weekly word. Every week we ask Chris on his advice, his point of view on particular news topics that are out in the Raider news, Raider Nation news, and in the NFL world, and see what he thinks, and obviously my little minute points as well of what I think as far as what the rumors, news, or whatever is out there, how important it is, and how it affects the Raider Nation. So the first point this week, unfortunately, it's a sad one. We lost one of our Raider content creators, Raider Spotlight. Passed away, I believe it was last week, Chris. He was a friend of yours.
Like Sunday night, Monday morning.
And he was young, right?
Yeah, he's fairly young. Yep.
Do you know what happened or?
I don't know all the details, man. It's just one of those things. It was a shocker. A lot of people that were in the content community, he's collabed with so many people. He's brought a lot of people to the game. He really helped pioneer a lot of people. I can go on and talk about him for days, but I don't know the specifics of it, but I can tell his impact. Just with me specifically. He was the first guy that I had like a weekly show, like a weekly collaboration show with. Like people see, I do stuff with, I did stuff with TRS, my brothers, and did stuff with, the weekly War Room. But before all that, it was the Nothing But Raiders podcast, and that was with me, him, and Leo, Chio Linus.
Oh, how long ago was that?
Oh, that's when I first started. So that was, about 2 years ago. Maybe a little over 2 years.
Was that the first show you did? Was with him and with Leo?
That was the first like collab show that I did like on a monthly basis. Yeah, because I started off doing my my Fan Talk Fridays, like that's where I started. It was like my solo show, and that's kind of where I got my own little buzz. But as far as like doing like a weekly show with someone else, Spotlight invited me on his show. He was actually one that got Leo started in all the content creating. This was before Leo even had a channel on his own.
Right.
I joined their show together, and it was a great experience. I learned a lot because Spotlight's somebody who he was one of the first guys that I watched because he was on YouTube a long time. So I just remember just being a fan, and then sometimes I would just want to watch like a fan's reaction, or you know, like I didn't necessarily want to watch like ESPN, like so I just go on YouTube, you know, and there was only a few people that were really doing that, and he was one of them. You know, Sanji would go. You know, Sanji he didn't really do lives, but
Right.
as far as like live content, Raider content, Spotlight was one of the first ones that, you know, I'd go on, and you know, if I'm frustrated, I'd see him on the screen frustrated. So I kind of, you know, I liked what he did, and then you know, once I started my page and got cool with him, and I learned a lot from him. You know, and it's just definitely unfortunate news for sure.
Yeah, it is, man. Especially, you know, when somebody's so young
Yeah,
passes away. You know, I definitely feel it. Unfortunately, I never had the pleasure of meeting him.
Yeah.
Just what I've heard from you, Chris, and other content creators that have spoken highly of him. But how did you? Because you were mentioning earlier to me that you actually got to meet him. You got a face to face.
yeah,
How was the interaction? Because obviously, when you see somebody on camera, you know there is a particular. I don't want to say a camera portrayal, but some people aren't the same when you meet them off camera. Like I can attest, you on camera, off camera, same exact person.
Yeah, I'm the same.
You know, same exact person. Now, it was he exactly the same? Because from the videos that I've seen on IG and on YouTube, he seemed like a very animated person, very fun person to be around.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, when I met him, it was in Baltimore, and anyone that was at that game, like just at that weekend, you know, and met me, they know it was an experience, because you know, the whole time I was partying. So, but the time that I met him, man, we had a good time. You know, we were, you know, laughing. And you know, Brian from Autumn Wind.
Yeah, All In Autumn Wind.
Yeah. So, I think the very first time I met Spotlight, I was doing my little interview with Brian. We were talking.
Oh, okay.
And Spotlight interrupted. He interrupted and got in the video. But it was fun though. It was a good time. We had a lot of laughs. You know, a lot of drinks, a lot of just talking about the Raiders and just talking about life. And it was a good time. It was a good time. Like I was close with them, you know, for a while. And then, you know, like toward, you know, I will admit, you know, we didn't really talk as much like over the last few months or whatever, for whatever reason. But I mean, it's just he's a solid person, loved content creating and was good at it, and really wanted to make it a full-time career. And, you know, it could have got to that point for him, because he was all in. He was all in with it. You know, he really respected the craft, and, you know, he invested a lot of time to learn it. And I know he went to go meet Stephen A. Smith one time.
Really?
You know, yeah, it was just all in on content creating. Like me, I was never all in like that. Like I like it. It's like a hobby, but like he wanted to make it a real career, and I always salute him for that.
Oh man, that's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it's good to hear that he did have a positive impact in this world.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's just one person, or at least that I know of, two people.
Yeah.
You know, he's I think he did his job in this world. You know,
yeah, definitely did. I mean, a lot of the Raider content creators, whether, you know, they like them or not, he had some kind of part in their career. Even some of the most experienced ones, you know, whether we're talking, you know, I don't like bringing up other people's names, but whether it's like Graphic Raider, you know, who's one of the most well-knowns, you know, they collabed together quite a bit, you know, back in the day, you know, Hammer, and like, you know, so it's you know, even Q, you know, Q from
really Q Myers.
He collaborated with him way back in the day before Q got big. So, you know, there's a lot of people that you know, and I'm not saying that he like made them or anything, but you know, he was part of the collaboration. Like he was in the mix. He was always in the mix, you know. So there's really not any content creators who probably did not really, at least who've been around a while, who probably did not at least collab with them at least once.
Wow, that's great, man. I'm saddened to hear about the news, and I'm disappointed that I never got to actually meet him or talk to him or even interview him.
Yeah,
you know, because I think that
he would have been a great interview. He would have been a great.
It would have been definitely a great interview for the Raider Nation Roll Call. you know, because this is actually, he is probably one of the individuals that help do what I want to do, which is
absolutely
propel the Raider name.
Absolutely.
You know, and unfortunately we lost a good one, but let's just keep his family and himself in our thoughts and prayers. You know, hopefully someday we will be seeing each other again in the YouTube in the sky.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and just if you have any contact with his family, let them know if there's anything we can do. You know, we're the nation is one big family. We'll try to do what we can. You know, whichever way we can.
Yeah.
You know, is there any final words you want to say about the brother?
Yeah, man. Just I said this on a video before. I really think that like situations like this, and Dub, I know you're such a good guy, but there's a lot of like drama within the Raider content creating community, which, you know, if you're not in it, you may not know, but there really is. And, you know, a situation like this that happens in Spotlight, it makes you just want to reflect on yourself. I know it makes me reflect on myself. It's like, man, if you got any kind of beef, and I use the word beef lightly, but if you got any kind of like disagreements with anyone, man, take the second just to see if you can get on the phone and clear it up, man. Have the conversation. It's not worth
not at all.
Going through your life, you know, being at odds with something over some BS. Like if no one has spilt blood over it, died, or lost money, man, a lot of things can be talked out. And you know, and I just, it really helped me reflect. And I hate that this situation had to be what got me to that. But,
right.
You know, I just think of so many people that have Raider YouTube beef, it sounds so stupid, but like none of that's important, man. We're all supposed to be a family, you know,
right.
We all love the same team. And you know, it's just one of those things that just made me just reflect on what's really important in life. And it's all about those relationships and those memories you have with people. You know, that should supersede anything else.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. You know, at the older you get, like right now in my age, I'm 51. I've been having a lot more funerals than I have celebration of birthdays.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen a lot of friends, you know, leave us because of unforeseen illnesses or accidents, you know, and it's put a lot of things into perspective, especially after losing my parents.
Yeah.
You know, I noticed that life is short. You know, you can't waste time on the negative, because if you do, you're only hurting and affecting yourself. You know, you have to move forward. You have to be positive. You have to try and do the best you can with the time that you have, because we're not promised tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, you know, we have to do what we can, you know, so like, that's the whole reason why I wanted to do this segment with you. You know, not because I knew him, because I didn't. You know, all I knew was what I've seen on YouTube and on IG, but I knew that he was an important individual to the nation.
Yeah.
So I think honor is due.
Yeah.
You know, and I want everybody to know that this is what the Raider Nation, the content creators, really is about. You know, the Raider Nation in general is about. We are a family. And when we lose one, we all lose one.
Right.
If we need them or not. So, you know, we need to take a little time to reflect on what we have, be thankful, and, you know, pray if that's what you do, you know, for the individuals that we lost.
Yeah.
You know, but for now, I created this little montage in memory of Spotlight. Spotlight, rest in peace, brother. We will always be saluting you. You'll always be part of the nation. And here you go.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Jalen Jones just scored! Raiders win! Raiders win! Oh my God!
All right, Raider Nation. Again, Spotlight, may you rest in peace. And we will never forget you. We will be here for you. I know definitely Chris, Leo, and the rest of the content creating family will definitely be in our thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Continuing on with Chris's weekly word, we have basically just the rumor mill. You know, we got rumors of AOC trade. What's up with that? Because, you know, obviously I don't see as AOC being our starting quarterback, but he is definitely a top tier backup. Why would we want to trade that?
Yeah, you know, to be honest, I do not think, you know, this time of year, it's a lot of smoke screen. You know, we kind of talked about that before. A lot of smoke screen. You know, I'm not the biggest AOC fan as like a starter. But, you know, I think as a backup, you know, he can, you know, he's decent enough. Does he fit Chip Kelly's, you know, offensive philosophy or scheme per se? Not necessarily. But, you know, trading him, you know, at the draft or whatever, you know, for one, I don't see another team. I don't know how they would really benefit for trading for him, especially at the draft. Now, maybe after the draft, if they don't get who they want, then, you know, maybe they can make some calls. But like doing it before the draft or at the draft, I don't know. So yeah, it'll be interesting if there's a team that's interested. But I'm not going to say that the Raiders are not going to, you know, that they're not interested in trading them, because they might be. If Chip Kelly really feels like that's not a guy that he can run offense around, because you usually want your backup quarterback to be similar to your first quarterback. So you're building the same system, you know, and AOC and Geno, I mean, they're pretty different. I mean, you know, they both are pocket passers, but Geno can move. You can do a lot more with Geno. Geno definitely has better arm talent. So, you know, you may look to get another quarterback in the draft, and then go ahead and maybe find someone else that may want an AOC that has another quarterback that's similar to him. Maybe the Rams want him to sit behind, you know, Matt Stafford, and maybe, you know, give him a chance to develop. Who knows?
Yeah, because the way I see it right now, we have more need positions than we have draft picks.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so why dig the hole even deeper?
Even deeper, yeah.
By getting rid of him right now. At least if he's not a good starter, he's definitely an like you were mentioning, an average backup. Yeah. But we have him.
Yeah.
You know, he's here. We don't have to pay him anything more.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically we're good.
Yeah.
So we're I think by trading him, if other than it being like an amazing, you know, trade that we're trying to do, I don't see really the need.
Yeah, because it's not like we're going to get you know, a great draft pick for him. You know, it's not like we're going to get like a second round for him or anything like that. You know, like we'll probably get like a 6th round or something. I mean, by that point, it's like, is it even worth trading? You know,
right? Yeah, you know, so. Honestly, this particular rumor to me, I think it is definitely, like you were mentioning, just a smokescreen. Yeah. You know, but it still irked me a little bit, because I'm like, okay, we just got rid of Jack Jones. Yeah. You know, which is now we have another position that
other need. Yeah.
You know, and then they're talking about this. I'm like, nah. You know,
yeah, for sure.
But anyway, that was just the little AOC rumor trade. Next, here's another one. Jalen Ramsey. He wants out of the Dolphins. And of course, like I was just listening to Q earlier, he was mentioning that every time a high-profile player wants to move team, they always attack him to the Raiders. Oh, the Raiders. And I'm like, why? Like, doesn't he have like a $21 million contract that needs to be paid this year?
Yeah, he's...
We ain't got that kind of money for one player.
No. Yeah, he's expensive. But I will say, though, I've always liked Jalen Ramsey's game. You know, he has lost a step. Forgot how old he is, but...
In his 30s.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, his price tag has always been pretty high. But one thing about him, he's always kind of wanted to be a Raider. I remember.
Yes.
I remember seeing it was a video of him saying he basically was like begging, and I think that was during the John Gruden days. He was begging to get traded to the Raiders.
Yeah, I think it was when he was still with was it Jacksonville?
Maybe.
Yeah, Jacksonville going to the Rams.
Maybe, yeah. So yeah, he wanted to. I mean, and the thing is, he's a pretty nice sized corner, and that's actually what that's kind of Pete Carroll's thing. He likes big body corners. So it definitely is a rumor. Money wise, it's kind of tough, just because of our money situation. But I would never. You can always play with the accounting to make it work. Me personally, I wouldn't mind it. Just with us losing Jack Jones, that'll give us some more flexibility in the draft. But he is a bona fide star. But like I said, he probably did lose a step or two. But the thing is, you get him playing with guys up front like Max Crosby, and like those guys are going to be flying after the ball. So someone like Ramsey could really benefit, and plus that D line could benefit from Ramsey, because Ramsey can still cover. He may have lost a step, but he's still a top flight guy. So he can make that defense. On the other side of Ja'Cory and Bennett, he can make that defense go.
But here's another concern that I have. I heard that he's been hurt every year. Within his career. Does that like pull any red flags for you?
Yeah, it's a red flag. But honestly, I think I come to the point where most players are going to get hurt, and that's why it's important to have depth. Like Max has gotten hurt the last couple years, and Max is going to still Max is not going to be getting out of every season scot-free, healthy. I wish he did, but nobody is.
Especially now that they're getting older.
Exactly. So, but with Ramsey, because he doesn't really play a physical position, so but it's always a concern. Anyone that gets injured is concerned. But I just think when you have an opportunity to get a high level guy like that that wants to be on your team, to me that's a big piece of it right there. Like, how many players really want to be Raiders?
Especially right now.
And he wanted to do it years ago. So, again, if we don't go after him, I understand. From a financial standpoint, but to me, he still has enough ability where he can be. He can really help us on that defensive side of the ball.
Definitely. I would welcome him arms wide open, but definitely a contract restructure.
Making
it more team friendly.
They got to make
obviously giving him what he deserves, what he's worth.
Yeah,
because he has put in work in his career, but it has to be team friendly because we are still in the doghouse. We still need to fill a lot of positions. We still need to get a lot more players, a lot more depth. So if that's a possibility, which we know it's really not going to happen. But,
right.
If it is a possibility in a perfect world, if there's just a contract restructure where it's more friendly on both sides, I'm 100% behind it.
Yeah.
I'm definitely 100% behind it.
For sure.
All right. The next one, and I just heard this yesterday, Kolton Miller seeking a new contract. What's up with that?
Yeah, man. Kolton's kind of tricky because I think last year we really got to see Kolton's value because, Kolton was coming off an injury. So he started off very, very weak. His season didn't start off good at all. And our offensive line was horrible.
Yes.
But once he got kind of better, he got his feet up under him and, he kind of knocked the rust off and Kolton was playing pretty decent. But to me, Kolton's always been kind of like a middle tier left tackle. Like some people want to try to put him in the top 5 left tackles. I never saw him as that. I always thought he was like a, maybe a top 10 left tackle, but more like around 12-ish or so. But it's just one of those things, man. your agent starts seeing guys making money around you, and his agent's just trying to do his job, trying to,
of course,
get the best money for his client. I don't think it's nothing personal. I think Kolton wants to remain a Raider. He doesn't seem like a guy that wants to just uplift his family and go somewhere else. But I think you hire these agents for a reason, to get you the best deal and get you a deal that you feel like hits that accurately fits your worth or whatever. So we'll see, but I'm not too concerned right now. I mean, it's early in the process. If we start getting to training camp and stuff like that and something's not worked out, then it may it could be a problem. But he probably just wants to get a deal done. The team might be willing to do that. We'll see. But trading them, I hear people talking about trading them. I think if we were going to trade him, we should have did it a few years back.
Right
now it's like he's not gonna have
when he had more value.
Yeah. Now it's like, and then that's going to be another hole we got to fill. So it's just like,
and again, we're not there, man.
We're not there.
We're not in a position where the next man up.
Yeah,
he's going to be able to do it. We don't have that.
No, we don't. Because my thing is, if we wait to now to start doing that, it's like why? And I know people aren't going to like me saying this, but it's like, then why even pay Max all that money and all? Because at that point, you're just going to scrap everything. So
right.
Like, why are you? If you're going to just scrap everything, then scrap everything, get all the draft capital you can, and let's just rebuild this thing and start over. But it seems like there's, by you getting a Geno, and you paying Max, that shows that you at least want to continue to be competitive right now.
Right.
Build off for what you got now. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, because the way I see it is, our team is like a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of the puzzle pieces already together. We have the structure.
Yep.
There are some holes that are missing, and that's what we're trying to fill.
Right.
But by these rumors coming out, or this information coming out, it seems like we want to remove pieces.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, right.
It makes no freaking sense.
Going backwards.
But that's why I like to bring this information up to you, because obviously you're more knowledgeable. You get more of the news, you get more of the information, and you're able to kind of like calm our stress.
Yeah.
Because it is definitely something that I'm like, man, what? Something else? We don't need that. We need to hear we just picked up, or we just acquired, or we just something positive.
Like we put another puzzle piece in.
Yes.
Into the
yes. And that just kind of like, oh, okay, come on now.
Yeah.
But thanks to you, Chris, you could just calm those waters. Get us going.
I try, but trust me, in my mind, I try to come off calm to you guys, but in my mind, it goes crazy, man. The team drives me crazy so much, man.
Yeah, but there was something that you had told me a long time ago, and actually that actually resonated, and now it lives rent free up here. Is that you used to get angry at the outcome of games that we would lose? You'd be pissed off for like days and stuff.
Yes.
But then you saw one day that after the game, the Raiders would lose. They'd be over here high-fiving and shaking hands with the opposing team, exchanging jerseys, and they were happy-go-lucky. And you were like, well, why the hell are we getting angry? So I'm like, you know what? That's a great mindset.
And it's so true. And for people that I've never said that to, so what he's talking about is, I used to get pissed after the games. I'm talking about pissed. Like where, if I go to a game in Miami, if the Raiders lose, I might just stay in my hotel for the rest of the game just because I'm so mad or whatever. Like I'll get pissed, and my girlfriend at the time would be like, why are you getting so upset about these Raiders? And I'm like, man, I love blah, blah, blah. So and I just remember at one point, man, I just remember being so mad. And after the game, I'm just kind of looking at the field and I'm seeing my team, who I'm mad about, smiling, taking pictures, doing jersey swaps and all this. And I'm thinking to myself, like, these guys are out there on the field. They're not upset. Why am I upset? Because these guys are about to leave out of this parking lot in their foreign car They're about to go drive or get drove to a mansion where their beautiful wife that's probably super hot is probably waiting for them. And they got all these wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I, who is working, giving, my hard-earned money to watch this team, upset when they're not? And I'm like, never again. I am not about to let, them get me to the point where I am messing up the rest of my day, because they're not even that upset after the game. Why am I going to be upset?
Wise words have never been put out there.
What you say?
I said wise words have never been put out there so well, Chris.
I'm telling you, man. It's helped with my stress so much. So now these little gray hairs, they still coming in, but not as rapidly.
Yes. Well, no, definitely, man. I definitely think, that's why I like to bring this information up, just to let individuals know that, they're rumors.
Yeah.
Nothing is true until the ink is dry on the paper.
So true.
Just want to let you, Raider Nation, let you know that, these are rumors out there. Don't believe the hype. Public Enemy said it the best, but it's something that we want to address and inform logically.
Yeah.
That it's just rumors, and there are possibilities. Some are very slim, but they are possibilities.
Yeah.
All right, Raider Nation, enough with the rumors. Now let's go to the important topic of the week. Let's just say it. The king has approached us. May I bow to the king of the mock drafts for the War Room, week number 2. King Chris, congratulations, brother.
Hey,
you pulled it off.
Hey, it's back-to-back champ, baby. Back-to-back champ. Just like I tell everybody, I'm a humble king. I'm not like my predecessor, the one, I am I'm a humble king, and that's just how it is. I let him enjoy his reign for 3 weeks in a row. Now it's time for, the big dog to come back and get his crown. So I had to go ahead and get it for the 2nd week in a row, man. I had to do it.
You know what the situation reminds me of?
What?
I don't know if you remember when you were a kid, there was that one old ass cartoon, which is the tortoise and the hare.
Oh yeah.
I think it was a Bugs Bunny cartoon where Bugs Bunny just bolted, right?
Yeah.
And just took off. But then the turtle was just chilling, taking his time.
Yeah.
And at the end, who won?
That tortoise, man. That tortoise.
Yeah. It was a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly, man. I had to let him know. He woke up a sleeping giant, man. He woke up a sleeping giant.
Yeah, this week actually, I wasn't able to catch you guys live, but I was like, man, I gotta find out if Chris got it. So I went back, watched the recorded version of the War Room, and rightfully so, you got your dub.
Had to
for week number 2, man. One more to go and it's a tie.
Oh, there's a tie. Then we got to figure out a sudden death, man. I got to figure out the true champ, man. So we'll see.
You should ask Severe, see what he's done. Hey, maybe you guys could do a rock paper scissors from across the country, or
we'll do something. Yeah, we'll figure something out, or we may even have one last one the night before the draft or something. Just or we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, man. Because
me and him are ultra competitive, so we live and die for some of this. And poor 805. We just don't want him to get any at all. So
yeah, man, he's got that big goose egg, man. But hey, I shout out to 805 because even though he hasn't won one, he's been a super trooper.
He has.
Just always being very celebratory to the winner, to the chat, to everybody that's involved. But he's trying.
Solid dude.
Salute to the War Room. You guys are definitely killing it. If you guys haven't watched it, go ahead and check out what was it, Sundays, right?
Yeah.
It was this past Sunday's episode. It was great. It was great. Oh, yeah. And next Sunday would be the true final to see if you guys tie.
Yeah.
Or Severe gets the ultimate crown.
Yeah.
Or if 805 gets a win.
Yeah.
Actually, we don't know.
You're actually dropping this on Sunday, right?
Sunday, right?
Yeah. So when they see this, then make sure you guys tune in later tonight to watch.
Oh, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, because this drops at noon, and you guys are at what is it?
Yeah, it's usually like it's like 7:45. No, 6:45 ish your time, 9:45 ish my time. So
okay.
Yeah, around.
Yeah, so check it out, Nation.
Yep.
Drop a line over to the War Room, to Chris's channel, to Severe's channel, and to 805 channel. Fire content. Fire content. All right, so that concludes Chris's weekly word. Again, if you guys have any topics that you guys want us to cover in Chris's weekly word, if you have any questions on anything pertinent that's going on in Raider news, the Raider Nation, or anything, drop us a line. We're more than willing to put it on and answer your questions as best as we can. Because again, we're not professionals. We are just like you, only sitting in front of a camera.
Yeah.
That's really about it. Our next segment is Football 101. Football 101, if for you guys that don't know, is basically talking about football itself. Unfortunately, we're not all as knowledgeable in football as my boy Chris, 805, Severe, Cheeto, all these content creators. So what I wanted to do with this segment is give the basic understanding and information on what football is, positions and stuff like that, anything that has to do with football. So last week we covered the offensive line, quarterbacks, running backs, all that. This week we're going to cover defense. So we're going to talk about the line, the positions, DBs, linebackers, all of that stuff. And we have Chris here that's going to help us out.
Yep.
Chris actually played ball for many years. You started Pop Warner, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I started Pop Warner, when I was real young. I remember because back then it was weight classes. So I remember I first started the 105 weight class, and then the 125 weight class, and then I went to play middle school, and then high school, and then some college. So played since I was young.
I've never asked you this. What position did you play, and what college did you go to?
Yeah, so it's funny because I don't look it, but so in high school I played running back and safety.
Okay.
And then in college, and I went to Tiffin University, which is a Division II school. And actually one of the guys in my class that started when I did, he actually went to the pros, and that's not too common for a Division II guy to get drafted. But his name was Nate Washington. He played for the Steelers. He got a ring with them, and he played with the Titans as well. But
name sounds familiar.
Yeah, Division II school in Ohio. So I played there. So I played running back and a little bit of safety there as well. So that's where I got a lot of my football knowledge.
And did you do 4 years of football, or
No, and I didn't play that long because honestly, when I got to college, man, I was real immature, man. So and you know me, so I partied a lot and all that, man. So I definitely enjoyed the college experience, but I definitely had fun playing though.
You know what? For someone that did the college experience twice,
yeah,
because I did it in junior college and then I did it at the university level.
Yeah.
By the way, I got to shout out Compton Community College, go Tartars.
Nice.
And Cal State Dominguez Hills, go Toros. I partied my ass off, and I do not regret it a bit.
Oh yeah.
Because that's when you have the energy. That's when you have just the ability to party Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and be ready for classes on Monday. No problem.
Oh yeah.
Now I party Friday. I'm down Saturday, Sunday, and thinking about Monday.
Yeah, Monday, barely making it.
But anyway, back to the point here. We're kind of like getting sidetracked here on the party. But the defense. Explain to us the different positions of a defensive line.
Yeah. So and kind of what I'll break out, because you'll always hear people talk about the different defensive schemes. So there's a 4-3 defensive scheme, and then there's a 3-4 defensive scheme. I mean, those are the two most popular ones. So in the Raiders throughout the years, we've changed our schemes, and we've done both in the past. So the defensive line is made up of the defensive end, and the defensive tackles. So when you're looking at a defensive end in the 4-3 system, that is like what Max Crosby plays. So they're like on the edge, and those are guys that their main goal is to get to that quarterback, get the sacks. They're the ones that are supposed to be like the sack artists, per se. So Max Crosby is, like that 4-3 defensive end. Now, when you look at a 3-4 scheme defensive end, so those are guys that they're not necessarily sack artists, but those are guys that are a little bit bigger, guys that can get pressure. And like when I think of like a 3-4 defensive end, I'm thinking like a Richard Seymour, because
bigger guys.
Yeah, because he plays, Richard Seymour. I mean, he was a 4-3 defensive end as well. So I mean, he was actually you can put him in different spots because he also would go inside and play some defensive tackle as well. But basically, like just the body frame, just a bigger guy doesn't really have to really depend on his speed per se. He's kind of responsible for two gaps. So it's a little bit different. So that's kind of how the defensive end is. Then if we go inside is a defensive tackle. So those are the big boys. Those are the ones that, are bigger. They're the ones that takes on double team blocks. They're the ones that are, they need to like stuff the run, so the running backs can't just have a clear lane to run into. So those are the big boys, the big, like Adam Butler and, Christian Wilkins, things like that, like Warren Sapp, he was one. There's a lot of guys, in our past that we had. So those are the guys that are just the big body guys.
So let me ask you, Chris, for the defensive tackles, it's best to have a big tackle height-wise or width-wise, or a combination?
So it depends. So if you're like in a 3-4, like your tackle, and it's really called like in the 3-4, it's called like a nose tackle. So a nose tackle is a guy that's usually right over the center, and his job is just to eat up space. It's like to eat up space, make sure nobody can go in the gaps between the center on each side. So you just want a big, strong man there,
Right.
Whereas in some other schemes, whether it's like 4-3, your tackles, you may want one guy that can, stuff the run, but then you also want a guy that can penetrate still, so that can get upfield and penetrate. So that's like your Aaron Donalds of the world. Aaron Donald was he was a big guy, but he was a quick. I mean, even Warren Sapp was a big guy, but he was like a quick big guy who can get to the quarterback even in the middle of the defensive line. So
and they were different body structures,
exactly,
but had the same ability.
Exactly. So you get the guys that have big body structures, and just like if you look at our team, so like Adam Butler, he's not the biggest like DT, but then we had a guy, John Jenkins, who was like just our big run stopper. So he, that's the guy that's, he was probably about 6'4", 6'5", 330 or something. Like that's when you want those guys, in the three, upper 320, 330, 340. That's those guys. But then, you can get a, where the guy that's supposed to get after the quarterback, he can be around 300, even, at times, 290, something like that. That's a little faster and can get after it.
Okay, man, that's crazy. I don't know if I ever told you, but I had actually went out and made my high school football team.
Okay.
I had never played before in my life.
You on the line?
Yeah, defensive tackle.
Nice.
My mom was always definitely afraid of me playing because I had a friend. His name was Sean Ferrillo.
Yeah.
He was an amazing football player for Linwood High School, where I attended high school, and his senior year, he had committed to USC. He was going to be a star player. He was paralyzed from the neck down.
Oh,
yeah, and unfortunately that year, when he got paralyzed, the school district wanted to wash their hands of the situation and said it was a freak accident. So my mom fought for the district to pay his hospital bills and his lifestyle care and whatnot. And from then on, he had been part of our family. But my mom saw that and she was like, hell no, you're not playing, right? But I always loved football and I wanted to play. I wanted to be part of it. So I went out, I made the team. But one thing that was always instilled in me is that education is first. So I had made the team, but then I found out that I was credit deficient to be able to graduate my senior year. So I ended up choosing to go to summer school to make up those credits. Fast forward my senior year, I find out that I graduated with credits over, that my counselor had made a mistake in that deficiency. I was actually on par with the credits I needed, so I missed out on that opportunity. And
man,
that has been up to this day my big what if moment in my life. What if? Oh shit! Sorry. What if I would have made the team? What if I would have been good? What if I would have gotten to go to a great college? What if I would have made the NFL? And after that moment, I decided, you know what? No more what ifs. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. If I fail, at least I tried.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So going back to the defense. So we covered the tackles and the defensive ends.
Yeah.
What's the next position?
Yeah. So then so that's the first line. Everyone knows, like, again, that's where Max and all those big dogs kind of stay. So the second line is the linebackers. So the linebackers are, they're almost considered like hybrid defenders. They have to be able to stop the run. So they're the guys that stop the run, but you also have to be able to drop back into coverage. And sometimes you have to go cover the running backs or cover the tight ends, and in some schemes you may have to go out and even try to cover a wide receiver. So so they're hybrid guys. So those are going to be guys that are a little bit faster, especially nowadays. Those linebackers have to be pretty good athletes. So just like the linebacker that we got, Devin White, I think back when he did the combine, I think he ran like a 4.3, 4.4. So he's a fast guy. He's faster than a lot of defensive backs. So, having that in your linebacker is pretty good. So there's usually 3 different types of linebackers. So usually the guy that's kind of like the quarterback of the defense is the middle linebacker. So he's the one that they call the Mike. Like if you hear people talk about, oh, he's a Mike, or that's a Mike linebacker. That's the middle linebacker. That's the guy that usually wears a green dot. You hear people talk about the green dot. That the green dot is, the guy that can communicate with the coach, who can hear the coach in their helmet.
That was Spillane last season, right?
Yeah, yep. That was Spillane. Yep. So that was Spillane, and then before Spillane left, Denzel Perryman. So yeah, it's always, it got to be the guy that can communicate, who can, be able to call out plays and stuff like that. So, that was Spillane. So we lost our Mike linebacker.
And then after that's usually the linebacking core is for both 4-3 and 3-4. Is it the same amount of linebackers?
Yeah. So I'm sorry. So when I say 4-3 and 3-4, so that kind of describes the amount of people on each line. So when I say a 4-3, that means there's 4 linemen and 3 linebackers.
Okay.
And then a 3-4 is 3 linemen and 4 linebackers.
Oh,
so in the 3-4, there's just a defensive tackle that's right, like in front of the center, or it may like be, you know, shaded on either side, and then there's defensive ends. That's all that's in the 3-4 on the line, and then a 4-3. There is 2 defensive tackles and 2 defensive ends on the line, so that's how you get to 4. Now, linebackers in the 3-4, there's 4 linebackers, so there's 2 inside backers, and then there's 2 outside backers. The outside backers are like outside of the defensive ends, so they almost kind of are like the edge guys. So those are the ones that kind of get after the quarterback, but they also drop back in coverage. So it's a lot to it. It's kind of hard to explain without like showing you. But yeah, in the 3-4, there's 4 linebackers. So the weak side linebacker, and then this is the 4-3. The weak side linebacker, they call that a wheel. So the wheel linebacker is usually like the faster and more athletic. He's the one that kind of covers running backs and tight ends and things like that. And he's the one that has like that backside pursuit because he's playing on the weak side. The strong side linebacker, that's a guy that you know, is usually a little bit bigger, more physical. He takes on blocks. You know, he usually plays closer, you know, to the line, and things like that. So, you know, you'll always hear like the Will and Sam, and all that's saying is the weak side linebacker, which he's on the side where there's less blockers, and the Sam strong side linebacker, he's on the side where there's more blockers. Usually that's the side like the tight end is on and things like that. So,
you know, it's funny because all these terms mean the same thing, but you know, they're different terms used.
Yeah.
And I think that's what tends to confuse a lot of average football fans.
Yeah.
You know, when you have the commentators talking about all these positions and using these different terms, like last week we talked about the fullback and the running back, known as the halfbacks, and you know, it's kind of like, okay, where's this third person, when in actuality they are the same.
Yeah.
You know, just how you're mentioning right now, the Sam and the Will, and you know, the strong and the weak. You know, that's pretty crazy, man. So
yeah, it is. It confuses a lot of people because a lot of people think, oh, a linebacker is a linebacker, or a defensive line is defensive line. And I think that also confuses people, like for the draft. You know, because people are just like, oh, well, can't we just draft him? And it's like, well, he don't really fit our scheme, you know. So that's why, because it's like, yeah, he's a linebacker, but he's a 3-4 linebacker. But since we run a 4-3, he wouldn't fit our scheme. So that's why, you know, sometimes when I'm talking to fans, like I have to kind of remind them of that. Like, yeah, this guy's a great player, but he just doesn't fit our scheme.
Right. You know, and that's definitely something that I've learned as of late, maybe a couple of years back. Yeah. Is that they might be star players, they might be great at their position, but if that's not the scheme that the team is playing, then it's not going to work. You know, they're just not going to fit. You know, so they need to go to a team that is going to benefit from the scheme that these players have been playing in college. Unless, you know, there's usually anomalies that are able to play, you know, whatever scheme is put forth to them. Yeah. You know, but that's rare, right? To have a player that you could just plug and play no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, there's some play, like there's just some special players that are just like, yeah, that can just plug and play anywhere. But yeah, it doesn't happen all the time, but then you get some of those guys that are just generational, you know, like Khalil Mack was like that. Like, you know, Khalil Mack was, you know, in a 3-4, he was an outside backer, but in a 4-3, you know, he was a defensive end. You know, he was a defensive end. So, yeah, you get guys like that where they're so special, you make them work in your system. You know, you figure it out and you make them work. So.
Wow, that's cool, man. So then I guess the final position would be the defensive backs, correct?
Yep. Yeah, so the defensive backs, and that's my favorite position in the, you know, on the defense. I love, you know, corners and safety. So the cornerbacks, you know, those are the guys that basically like cover the wide receivers, you know. So those are the guys, you know, they have to be athletic, you know, they have to have instinct. Because to me, besides the quarterback position, the cornerback is the hardest position to play, I think, because the receiver, they know the route, they know the route that you're going, they know, but like the corner, everything is off of instinct and reaction, so you got to be able to read and react, and it's tough. And that's why, like, Jacorian Bennett, I really wanted to give him grace that first year, because I'm like, I see something special in him, but it's just hard playing a DB. So give him another year, and he'll get it worked out, and he did. So, sometimes you just got to be a little bit more patient on corners.
Right.
So,
and now, is it important to have more depth in that position, being that they have to be so athletic? They're always running. They're always moving around the backfield.
Yeah, you definitely want to have depth in corner, because depending on what the offense is doing to you, you may have to play a lot of corners at once. It's like, for instance, if we're playing a team like the Miami Dolphins, they spread it out, and they may not have a running back. They may just have basically all wide receivers out there. Right. So, you got to be able to put a corner or you got to have, 5 or 6 DBs out there at a time. So you may have to have, 4 corners and 2 safeties. So you got to have guys, quite a bit of corners that can come out there and play, because, you don't want to be in a position where you're putting, linebackers or anything like that on fast receivers or anything like that.
So being that you played both sides of the ball, if, let's say in a perfect world, you would have made the NFL as like a hybrid player, which position would have want to play, either on offense or defense?
Oh, defense. Definitely defense. Yeah. Because
even though the running back position obviously has more notoriety.
Yeah, I mean, they have notoriety, but I always liked the I liked being the attacker. Like like on offense, it's like you had the ball and you were the target. And after a while, I didn't like being the target. But like I like the thought, like just how my mind process was, like, he has the ball, he's a target, go get him. Like I just love that. So like, coming up and hitting somebody and just being physical, I just love that. That just fit my mentality. And I also played rugby for a little bit.
Shut up, really?
Oh yeah. I played rugby. I actually played at a high level, because I actually played against, it was a national championship. We played against a team out in Utah. And I don't know if you remember Haloti Ngata. He ended up playing for the Ravens, but he was on that team. And them Samoans are probably some of the best rugby players, because they're so big and fat. Like this dude's probably, like, Haloti Ngata is probably 6'4", 3 something, and he was as fast as me at that time. And I played a wing, so I was like the wing, where it's like, like the fast guys. And like he's like in the scrum, and he's I forgot what position he played, but it was like, I just remember at one point, like, he had the ball just running full speed, and I just bounced off of him, couldn't do nothing. Like, it was unreal. He was unreal.
Yeah, man, I agree.
Because it made me a better defensive player, because I got used to like tackling people without equipment on. So when I finally put equipment on, I just felt like a little headhunter, where I can just ram, just take people out.
Yeah, man. I commend rugby players, man. That is definitely, it's a very, very a very rough sport.
No, it is.
It's definitely, I think, worse in some aspects than football, NFL. But it's amazing to see these massive men just go at it, pad free. And
but the crazy thing is, just because of like the techniques you're taught to tackle, because the way you're taught to tackle in rugby is a lot different. But there's probably less injuries in rugby than football, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, because a lot of people, like, because when you put the equipment on, you almost use it as a weapon, like, and that's where you get yourself in trouble, like using your helmet to ram into people, and a lot of running backs do that. And like when you tackle, leading with your head, you shouldn't do that. you know, you got to use your pads and shoulders and stuff. But in rugby, you know, a lot of times, I mean, you'll get those big hits, but a lot of times you almost like let someone's momentum take them down. So it's like if you're running at me, it's almost like you catch them and use their momentum and tackle them, you know. So
gotcha.
It's different. It's a technique thing, but yeah, it's a very tough sport. Very.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Well, I'm like everything, you know, every day you learn something new, and today I learned that you played rugby.
Yeah,
that's impressive,
pictures, man. I got to show you some pictures in highlight tapes, man.
Hell yeah, you know, shoot them over to me, and we'll put them up in this segment, man.
Yeah,
I'd love to show the Raider Nation, you know, all sides of Chris.
Yeah,
you know, that would be so awesome. That's crazy, man. That's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah.
As far as the defensive line. That's really all the positions, correct? It's the line, the defensive ends,
and then so I did talk about the corners. So there's safeties as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, you'll hear people talk about the strong safety and the free safety. So the strong safety, that's the guy he's usually like a little bit more, he's more big, he's a little bigger, he's more physical, he kind of plays closer to the line, so he's kind of like a box safety. You know, like he's a guy that he's almost like kind of like another line, like an extra linebacker, because he likes to hit. You know, that's you know, kind of like Ronnie Lott was, just a big guy that just, you know, comes in and makes plays.
Right.
And then you got like the free safety. So those guys are usually like the ones that are further back. They're the ones that are kind of the ball hawks. So they're the ones that can, you know, read the play. They read the quarterback's eyes. You know, get the interceptions. You know, do it a lot. They're mostly worried about, you know, coverage and being the guy that's over top, and they're the last line of defense. So, you know, they got to be short tacklers. You know, they may not always make the biggest hit, but they got to get the hit that gets the guy down. So yeah, so that's kind of how those two safety positions go. And then you'll hear people talk about like the nickel or the dime guy. So like Nate Hobbs was known as a nickel corner. So that means he's a guy that guards the slot receiver. So, you know, as we talked last week, like the slot wide receiver, that's kind of like a Hunter Renfrow and stuff like that. The nickel back is a guy that usually guards him. So he's a guy that has to, you know, be quick, because guarding that slot receiver is tough, because the receivers on the outside, a lot of times, you know, they're either just going to go straight or go like inside or straight, you know, depending on what side they're on. But if you're in a slot, you know, you can go either way. So it's just harder to I mean, it's just more to react to. So and plus being in a slot, sometimes you got to be able to blitz and help out in the run. So it's kind of a different skill set than the other corners. So
yeah, that position to me just seems like it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is
for very little return.
Yeah,
you know, but when you do get the accolades, is, you know, it's easy to get an interception, pick six.
Oh yeah,
you know, it's definitely great. Is there any other positions and anything else that we need to talk about as far as defense?
I think that pretty much. I think that pretty much gets the defense. You know, we went over the defensive line. You know, went over the linebackers. Went over the defensive backfield. So yeah, no, that's the defense in a nutshell, man.
All right, well, Raider Nation, that was Football 101 covering the defense this week. Again, if you guys have any questions on anything related to football, please reach out. We are happy to talk about them, to get you that information that you need. It's always a benefit to have an avenue like this, to be able to talk about the intricacies of football, because it's not just what you see on TV, but also everything else behind the scenes. You know, how the coaches make these decisions based on the players that they have and the ability that these players have in order to make these decisions. So knowing this information, you know, it's really, really good to know. So if you guys have any questions, comments, hit us up. You know, we are happy to incorporate them into our section. So again, this concludes Football 101. In closing, Chris, let everybody know what you got going on, my brother.
Yeah, man. You know, as you guys know, every weekend, you know, this is the show to be. This is where to be. Every Sunday at noon, right here on Dub Raiders channel. We're gonna keep, you know, dropping this knowledge and having these good conversations, man. And you know, really want to get this thing growing, man. So if you guys know anybody that enjoys learning about football and is just trying to ease into it, send them this link, man. You know, they can learn a lot of football just from the ground level. You know, we want to make sure that people understand it. That may not want to always ask questions, and sometimes football can be very confusing and complicated sometimes. So I know a lot of people listen to a lot of those content creators, and you hear them talk and may not always understand what they're saying, because sometimes they may be talking gibberish to you. So I want to make sure that we and just Dub's the one that's the architect of this, of having somewhere where we can talk just some of the football 101 and just kind of learn it together, just so we're more knowledgeable as fans all together. So I got that. And then as you guys know, I do my the Raider War Room with my brothers every Sunday and Tuesday. So make sure you guys check me out on Protect the Shield podcast. Subscribe to me so you guys can get that. I'm start grinding, man. So I'm gonna have a Saturday show. It hasn't been announced yet, so we're just waiting to get that all the way together. And then
is this you on your own, or are you
with someone else? So it's gonna be a duo show. I'm still gonna get my show together once the season starts. So I'm gonna be grinding this year. And then me and the Syndicate, we're actually starting back up, getting our show together, man. So
all right,
so the Syndicate, we're gonna get that going, man. Now that the draft is here, I think we're gonna try to do a special show for Saturday, actually. So we'll see, man. So I'm just grinding, man. So just definitely hit me up on Protect the Shield podcast, and definitely hit that notification, because I'm gonna have some fire content for you guys, man.
Yes, and I can attest to that, Raider Nation. Chris does put out fire content, alone or in collaboration.
Appreciate it.
As you can see here, he is definitely our well of knowledge. He helps us out a lot. If it wasn't for him, this show wouldn't be in existence, because I'm not going to sit here and give you the information that Chris can give. So, thank you, Chris, for that.
No problem, man.
And, we definitely appreciate your time and your knowledge and, everything that you put forth to the Weekly Wire. And, just check him out. Please like, subscribe, hit the notifications, for Protect the Shield podcast. He is going to come out with a lot of fire content, more than what he already has now, once the season starts kicking up to gear. So check him out. As far as myself, as you know, we have the Weekly Wire. We record every Thursday, and it drops Sundays at noon. I also have the Raider Nation Roll Call. If you guys haven't checked it out, please, after this, check out last week's interview with Lorenzo from Raider Crusaders. We talked about the 2025 Raider Nation Summer Kickoff, which is going to be taking place in Bakersfield. We're going to be there. 805 is going to be there. Do you know if Severe's going to go?
Yeah, Severe's will be there. Yep.
Severe's going to go.
Yeah.
Cheeto Linus is going to be there. A lot of content creators. My booster club looks like we're going to be there. TMBC Los Angeles. So just come on out. Come hang with us. It's going to be a great time. I went to the event last year. It was a lot of fun. So check out that episode, Raider Nation Roll Call, right here on my channel on YouTube, and also for draft day one, TMBC Los Angeles, myself, we're going to be hosting a draft day party at Bo Cigar Lounge in the city of Bellflower.
Nice.
So if you're in the Southern California area, please come and join us. We will be starting around 4 o'clock. I believe the draft starts at 5. It's a great spot. They got good cigars, good drinks, and there's a lot of restaurants in close proximity that we can order food from.
Yeah.
So, and they're willing to allow that. So please come through. It's a free event. Unfortunately, it's 18 and over. It is a cigar lounge after all. And I am going to be recording an episode of the Raider Nation Roll Call for that event. So if you want to be interviewed, come on through, come hang out. If you're a Raider fan or if you're not a Raider fan, this is open to everybody, but obviously more catered to the Raider Nation. So again, that's the 24th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I'll have the flyer up right here, and join us. And as far as Stogie Nation, I think I'm just gonna go on and start doing the interviews with the cigar lounges, because unfortunately, life is just very hectic right now for myself and MC Raider.
Yeah.
He's very busy with work, very busy with his comedy career, which is skyrocketing.
Yeah.
He's all over the place.
Yeah.
So it makes it somewhat difficult for us to get together to record on a consistent basis. But we're definitely going to still try and do some collaborations. But I am going to start doing some cigar lounge reviews for you Nation, so you guys can know where to go. And then also I want to do kind of like we do a football 101. I want to do a cigar 101.
That's good.
So for those individuals,
that's needed right
yes
there.
Yeah, for those individuals that have no experience with cigars, this is a good way to kind of have an introduction on how to smoke cigars if you want to, how to start the right way, and just the whole hobby aspect. So I want to incorporate that as well. So just check out my channel, like, subscribe, follow, and click the notifications, and we definitely will be putting out more content. And don't forget to check us out every week here on Raider Nation's Weekly Wire with myself at Chris from Protect the Shield podcast. And remember, Nation, everything we do is for the nation, by the nation. Peace.